my wonderful pocket watch that my wife bought. She's the best. It looks like an antique. With an Apple Watch inside.
Got his Fitbit.
You just signaled 2 minutes. Uh-oh, they're looking at us. They're looking at us. Huh? Is that good? Don't be sticking your tongues out at us. That's not nice.
Good afternoon and welcome. We're so glad you could be here with us today. This is a live stream performance, so feel free to applaud or laugh or even cry if you feel so moved. The ensemble you see before you here is the Dodworth Saxhorn Band of Ann Arbor, Michigan, as a recreation of the Dodworth Band of New York, one of our country's most popular and long-lived bands of the 1900s. We strive to give you entertainment like it was before iPods and CDs and even 8-tracks. And all of our music is written in the style of music of the 1800s, and all of the instruments are antiques built between 1840 and 1880. We also have some antique players, but I won't mention any names. So sit back, relax, and let us take you back to the time of your great-grandparents, where entertainment was the rule and not the exception. They're already on their feet.
Yes. I've noticed they stand up more often at that. I predict one day that might even become our country's anthem.
You may be right.
We'd like to now continue with a segment that features some of the great tragedy during the Civil War. And there was no more great tragedy than brother against brother.
George, there you are. I have shortened the sleeves of your coat a bit for you. Here, try it on.
Oh, that's much better. Thank you, Julia.
Right. I had to take down the sleeves of Robert's coat before he left yesterday.
I will never understand.
George.
I know, but for the life of me, I cannot understand why our brother wants to support that pack of rebel traitors.
And he cannot understand how you can support the denial of a state's right to choose what will and will not happen within its borders.
Certainly he has not forgotten about the enslavement of the African race.
Oh, no, of course not. He finds that act as repugnant as you and I. But there are more issues here.
We must have unified federal governance or this country will collapse into chaos. The unity of these United States is much more important than the whims of one individual state.
The state of the Union was built on the freedom to choose.
Choose? Good gravy, sister dear. Don't tell me you sympathize with those rebels as well.
Who will sympathize with me? A sister of two hard-headed brothers who have chosen to march off to war in opposite directions. You're not soldiers to me. You're my brothers. The fact that you're marching off to war at all grieves me, but that you have chosen opposite sides of this horrific act is more than I can bear.
I must go, sister dear. But you did a good job on the coats, mine and Robert's.
I only hope that I shall see both coats again.
I must go. Mr. Lincoln has called for 50,000 more volunteers, and I plan to be one of them. We are coming, Father Abram, 300,000 more, from Mississippi's winding streams and from New England shore. We leave our plows and workshops, our wives and children dear, with hearts too full for utterance, with but a silent tear. We dare not look behind us, but steadfastly before. We are coming, Father Abram, 300,000 more. Our union to restore. We are coming, Father Abram, with 300,000 more. If If you look across the hilltops that meet the northern sky, long moving lines of rising dust your vision may descry. And now the wind an instant tears the cloudy veil aside, and floats aloft our spangled flag in glory and in pride. And banners in the sunlight gleam, and bands great music pour. We are coming, Father Abram, 300,000 more. We are coming, our union to restore. We are coming, Father Abram, with 300,000 more.
My brother Robert left this note before he left yesterday. He looked so dashing in his gray Confederate uniform. Dearest Sister Julia, I know that it is difficult for you to see George and me at odds, but he is so clearly misguided. The guarantee of states' rights must be honored and preserved. It is not a matter of slave state or free. I would all men be free to choose their own path. But a federalist regime cannot be allowed to dictate to its member states, no matter the issue. Forgive me, I digress into politics for which I know you have no concern. My purpose for setting pen to paper is to thank you for your loving kindness and to assure you that this fight between two brothers and countrymen cannot last. I am certain that George and his Federalist comrades will soon see the error of their thinking, and if not, then we shall see the bonny blue flag of our Confederacy fly proudly over these states that choose to remain free of federal tyranny. With love, your brother, Robert.
Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, November 20th, 1863. Dearest sister, I apologize for my delay in writing to you, but it should please you to know the reason for my tardiness. All regular duties of the Maryland 1st Regiment were recently suspended so that we might assist in the preparations for the dedication of a soldiers' national cemetery here in the town of Gettysburg. For our labors, we were given the honor of attending the dedication ceremonies, which were quite grand indeed. Yes, they were. There were a number of dignitaries in attendance, including Mr. August Bradford, the governor of our own state of Maryland. And appropriate music was provided by the United States Marine Band. The guest orator, Mr. Edward Everett, spoke eloquently for nigh on to 2 hours. I must admit that I do not recall anything more than the general gist of his oratory, but then President Lincoln spoke to us for just 2 minutes, and I still remember every word he said. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those here who gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
And so one of my comrades has kindly offered to put my works to paper. General Jones has led us to this God-forsaken wilderness that is half swamp and half briar patch in an effort to give our men the advantage of the cover the terrain provides. We have used it well, and the Federalists have not been able to advance upon us as easily as they did at Mine Run. This thicket makes it difficult to know just how many of our comrades are with us, and whether we are making the progress we had hoped.
Those of us who are left from the Confederate Maryland Guard have been absorbed into the 21st Virginia Regiment, and our numbers are too few to have a proper chain of command. This suits us well for now, and we have hope of gaining the supplies and ammunition we so desperately need. In closing, Sister dear, I offer a soldier's prayer that you are safe and well, and that the same is true for our brother George. Your fond brother, Robert.
Spotsylvania, Virginia, May 8th, 1864. Dear sister, I have only a moment to write these few words to you. The hellish battle we have endured for the last 3 days has eased, although it is not clear whether the fight is won or lost. Our cannons have been of little use in this wilderness, for our artillerymen cannot see through the dense thicket to take aim at the Confederate lines. Our greatest challenge has been from rebel marksmen who hide themselves among the briars and deplete our lines one man at a time. The rifle shots have nearly ceased in the last few days, but Colonel Maltby has commanded us to remain here and await reinforcements from General Cutler in the 5th Corps. I pray God that you're safe and well, and that I may see our great country whole again before my life is ended. Your brother, George.
In the prison cell I sit, thinking, mother dear, of you, and our bright and happy home so far away. But the tears, they fill my eyes, spite of all that I can do, while I try to cheer my comrades and be gay. Tramp, 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 the boys are coming. Cheer up, comrades, they will come. And beneath the starry flag, we shall breathe the air again of the free land in our own beloved home. So within the prison cell, we are waiting for the day that shall come to open wide the iron door. And the hollow eye grows bright, and the poor heart almost gay, as we think of seeing home and friends once more. Tramp, 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 the boys are coming. Cheer up, comrades, they will come. And beneath the starry flag, we shall breathe the air again of the free land in our own beloved home.
General Lee has finally surrendered to General Grant at Appomattox? The war between the states is over and the Union is preserved.
Oh, huzzah, huzzah! Soon all of our soldiers from both sides of this awful conflict will be coming home. Oh, what a jubilee this will be! When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah! When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah! Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies will all turn about and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Two girls waiting by the railroad track. Two girls waiting by the railroad track for their darlings to come back. One wore blue and one wore black. One wore blue and one wore black as they waited by the track for their darlings to come back there on a beautiful morning.
Julia?
George?
Julia!
George, you're home at last!
Yes.
Oh,
I'm so thankful to be so.
sit.
So good to be home. I met the postman as I was coming up the walk. There's a letter for you. So good to be home.
April 21st, 1865. Dear Miss Anderson, I regret to inform you that your brother, Captain Robert Anderson, was lost on the field of battle at Sailor's Creek 10 days ago. As his commanding officer, I assure you that he died bravely.
We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him when we breathe our evening prayer. When a year ago we gathered, joy was in his mild blue eye, but a golden cord is severed, and our hopes but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him when we breathe our evening prayer. True, they tell us wreaths of glory evermore shall deck his brow, but this soothes the anguish only, sweeping o'er our heartstrings now. Sleep today, O early fallen, in thy green and narrow bed. Dirges from the pine and cypress mingle with the tears we shed. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him when we breathe our evening prayer.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to give our actors a chance to change before we present our next segment. And while we do that, we're going to pay tribute to the British military bands, which really are where our American brass bands come from. This is a piece called the 4th Grenadiers Quick Step. To all of those I cannot see out there, thank you very much for that wild applause. We are going to continue now with a segment that has my brother Alan Dodworth and his wife Callie talking about a book that I gave them for their anniversary.
President Lincoln by Ward Hill Layman?
Ah, you mean the book that your cousin Harvey gave us for our anniversary. Not yet, my dear, but are you enjoying it?
Oh, yes. Mr. Layman's anecdotes about the president are simply wonderful.
Yes, as I recall, Layman was Lincoln's law associate back in Illinois before they traveled to Washington together for the presidential inauguration of 1861.
Well, it turns out that shortly after his death, Layman's daughter collected and edited several pieces of unfinished writings about the president, and she's published Recollections of Abraham Lincoln.
And wasn't Lincoln a bit of a musician as well?
Well, he certainly was. Mr. Layman and Mr. Lincoln both had a place of music in their hearts. It seems that that was the reason that he invited Mr. Layman along with him on the pre-inaugural trip to Washington. Mr. Layman provided musical entertainment for the 14-day journey. You know, it says here that when possible, Mr. Lincoln tried to avoid talking to assembled crowds by calling for music from the local band. Mr. Lincoln professed that his knowledge of music was limited. He claimed, "I know only 2 tunes. One is Old 100th, and the other isn't." It seems as though their train trip from Springfield to Washington was quite a journey. They made stops all along the way: Indianapolis, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and New York City. They were greeted by almost 100,000 spectators in Philadelphia.
And they also traveled through Baltimore, Maryland, but they didn't stop there. 2 conspiracies to assassinate Mr. Lincoln were uncovered there by Mr. Pinkerton. They traveled through the city on a special train in the dead of night. And of course, our own Dodworth Band serenaded the president-elect in New Jersey with a stirring rendition of "Hail to the Chief."
Once in Washington, Layman continued his practice of providing musical diversion for Mr. Lincoln. He writes, "I had often called him from the pit of melancholy into which he was prone to descend by a jest, a comic song, or a provoking sally of a startling kind, and Mr. Lincoln always thanked me afterwards for my well-timed rudeness of ill intent." This reminds me of 1 or 2 little rhythmic shots I often fired at him for his melancholy moods, and it was a kind of nonsense that he always keenly relished. One was the parody of "Life on the Ocean Wave."
Oh, a life on the ocean wave and a home on the ocean deep, with ratlins fired 3 times a day and a creaky old berth to sleep, with a graybeard cockbutch roams and...
Okay.
Well, you know, I used a version of that in my Ocean Wave Quickstep.
Ooh. also writes that Mr. Lincoln would always laugh immoderately when I sang these jiggling nonsense to him. It reminded him of the rude and often witty ballads that had amused him in his boyhood days. He was fond of the Negro melodies, and the blue-tailed fly was his favorite. He often called for that buzzing ballad when we were alone, and he wanted to throw off the weight of public and private cares.
Oh. When I was young, I used to wait on master and give him his plate. Pass him the bottle when he got dry, and brushed away the blue-tail fly. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away.
One day he rode upon the farm, the flies so numerous that they did swarm. One chance to bite him on the thigh, the devil take the blue-tailed fly.
Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away. For the pony start, he stopped, he pitched, he threw my master in a ditch. He died and the jury wondered why. The verdict was the blue-tail fly. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away.
Now he lies 'neath the cinnamon tree. His epitaph is there to see.
Beneath the stone I'm forced to lie, the victim of the blue-tailed fly. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away. I recall seeing the president at the theater at times, and a comic song always restored Mr. Lincoln.
Oh, yes, dear. Layman writes, when he had a great fondness for witty and mirth-provoking ballads, our grand old patriotic airs and song of the tender and sentimental kind afford him the deepest pleasure. Ben Bolt was one of his favorite ballads.
Ah, such touching lyrics. Oh, don't you remember sweet Alice Ben Bolt? Sweet Alice whose hair was so brown, who wept with delight when you gave her a smile and trembled with fear at her frown.
Well, Mr. Lincoln surely had an affinity for music. I'm so glad that Layman was able to give that writing about his days with the president a chance in that book.
It is very satisfying to be in the making of beautiful music, especially since our very own President Lincoln promoted it. I remember when he often said, all other pleasures had a utility, but that music was simply a pleasure and nothing more. And that he fancied that the Creator, after providing all the mechanism for carrying on the world, made music as simple as an unalloyed pleasure.
Are you sure that you haven't read this book?
No.
Well, it seems music was an integral part of his life. I will always remember the news of the rebels' surrender at Appomattox. More than thousands of people flocked to the White House lawn, and Mr. Lincoln spoke to the crowd briefly, and he called upon the band that was among the revelers, and he asked them to play one of his favorites, Dixie's Land.
And as we come near the end of our program, I get to choose one more song. I've been doing this about 10 or 11 years now. The very first performance we did, I had only been the musical director for about a week, so someone else chose all of the music. We came to the end of the program, and I saw the final song was Maggie by My Side. And with a huge crowd at Greenfield Village, I saw my daughter Maggie out in the audience and said, I would like to dedicate this to my daughter, Maggie. And we played it, and it was wonderful. And afterwards, several members of the band came up to me and said, you understand that Maggie was a dog. That's okay. We're going to play it again, and I'm going to dedicate it to my daughter again. Here is Maggie by My Side.
such an amazing audience today. I do think it's about time, though, that we introduce the band.
Hey, that's a great idea. Listen, Mr. Jones, this is Mr. Genvy right here. Mr. Genvy, this is Mr. Felder.
No.
What?
We need to introduce the band to the audience.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
No.
No. You can sit down. Go,
Have a
sit down.
seat.
False alarm. Go. It's okay. Okay. On percussion, Mr. Torres and Mr. Dean. On bass, we have Mr. DeMarche. On baritone horn, Miss Miller and Mr. Gonthier. On tenor horn, Miss Dix and Mr. Darren. On alto horn, Miss Barrick and Mr. Wellman. On B-flat cornet, Mr. Wellnow and Mr. Turner. And on E-flat soprano, Mr. Jones and Mr. Genby. And your soprano vocalist for the afternoon is Miss Nikki Dreyer.
And your baritone vocalists for this afternoon are Mr. Richard Knapp and Mr. Brian George.
And now, the man who, if he was not here, there would be no music at all, and we would just be staring into space, our conductor, Mr. Mark Felder.
I'd like to give special recognition to Brian George and Nikki Dreyer. This is their very first performance with the band today.
Thank you, Richard.
And what do you say that we hear what all of those little snippets sound like when we put them together?
Thank you.